Now, this is not a situation that we need to sit around and wait for certain kinds of new technologies to be formed, invented, for new processes to be created. All the technologies exist. What is lacking is the willpower as a country to do something about moving forward. The stabilization triangle up there is to demonstrate that if we did a half dozen different things in a thoughtful, planful way, we would start reducing those carbon emissions to the point that we would be producing far less by 2050 than we are today. And it means efficiency programs, it means fuel efficiency standards, mass transportation, relying on renewable forms of energy, and other kinds of energy production. There is a clear long-term path to doing this. What we need are the major public investments in wind, solar, and biomass, the so-called renewable energies. We need to deal with automobile fuel efficiency.
It's about an estimate of 1.5 million jobs that currently could be developed just for a commitment to clean energy. But as we move forward with this renewable revolution, as we create jobs, and we will create jobs, it has to be partnered with fair competition. And you guys know this issue better than I do. But it has to be partnered with a fair trade policy that incorporates in the text of our trade documents enforceable environmental and labor rights.
The irony is that the American automobile industry is collapsing because of our failure as a country to deal with the fuel efficiency issue 15 years ago. And the reason why Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler are in such a fix today is because they are the only automotive industry in the world in which they depend on the profits made from inefficient engines, inefficient forms of automotive transport, and as a result, consumers all over the world are writing them out of the marketplace. $15 billion is currently invested in wind power in Germany. Germany produces 14,000 megawatts of wind energy compared to about 500 megawatts that are produced in Iowa or my home state of Minnesota or Kansas. Minnesota has 10 times the wind energy resource of the entire country of Germany, and we produce 1/25 of that amount of power. Well, what does wind energy do over in Europe? In Germany, the wind energy industry employs 40,000 people in one country. And for those of you who are in the steel industry, the wind energy industry is the second largest consumer of steel products other than the automotive industry. And that is with a country that has just a fraction of the wind energy resource of one state in the United States. We will have a fundamental choice of either learning how to regulate the global economy in the 21st century, the same way that we learned how to regulate the national economy, our economy, in the 20th century. Now, we were a strong union, joined with a lot of other strong unions. We took on that task in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s. We did it, and we built the middle class. We're being handed a similar problem. We're being asked to regulate the global economy. And if we don't do it, the choices are pretty stark. We'll either go forward and regulate that global economy to create a global middle class, or we'll find ourselves pushed back down into the ranks of the global poor.
We've got to put our lattes down, we've got to stop talking about polar bears, and we've got to start talking about economic security. Economic security is priority number one, and we need to couch these environmental issues in terms of jobs. And the Sierra Club has made a commitment to doing that. That this is about job creation, this is about economic security.
So the major conclusion that our union reached in its environmental statement is that it's not a question of jobs versus the environment. It's a question of using the environmental problems that our world is facing today to solve the economic problems of tomorrow.
We're talking about changing policy that will impact families here and all over the world. These aren't little things. But the Sierra Club and the steelworkers have taken their responsibility. Your role as the biggest manufacturing union in the country, our role as the biggest environmental union in the country, and we've stepped up to the plate. And we have said that the possibilities here are pretty extensive. We can change lives. We can make a difference.
What we do believe is important for the global economy is that our two organizations have a plan, a strategic plan for the future that's based on three principles. We want to create good jobs through clean energy and efficiency programs in this country, and we believe that can happen. We want to fight for responsible trade agreements between our country and the rest of the world that are based on labor and environmental standards, lifting up the rights of unions and protecting the environment. And finally, we want to make a safer world through chemical security and toxic replacement. We want to clean up our workplaces and communities and make them safer and better. And that's what our alliance is going to go out and fight for. We want to advocate jointly around these responsible trade rules. We want to pass prohibitions jointly, steelworkers and Sierra Club, against using tax breaks to encourage outsourcing state by state. We want to fight for international human rights campaigns. We don't want a company to believe that it can go down to the Maquiladoras or can go to Indonesia or can go to some other part of the world and get away from the rights of workers to organize in unions. That's something that we both strongly believe in, and we're going to fight for that. We think some of this nonsense coming out of Washington about Homeland Security needs to be addressed and addressed stiffly. You know, the American people are definitely at risk by the possibility of terrorist attack against any of the hundreds and hundreds, indeed thousands, of chemical plants in which more than 10,000 people would be at risk if there were a catastrophic accident. And yet this administration refuses to do anything about passing a national chemical security act. We need to pass them at the state level to make sure that you, your families, your communities are not at risk from these kinds of real threats to homeland security. We need targeted public health campaigns, and we need to find new green substitutes for toxic chemicals.